Hi there, and we are live with another episode of Mentor Minutes, where I take your questions about real-world leadership situations and try to apply some principle and some theory and get those things into action for you. So if you're tuning in on my podcast, YouTube, or here on Facebook, if you have a question, drop down into the comment section and let me know. If you're catching a replay of this, that's fantastic. There's a ton of value for you in listening to this on the replay, and you can always shoot me a question, cm@cameronmorsey.com, through Facebook direct messaging, or I always check the comments on previous episodes before I start the next one, just to make sure that I'm getting to everybody. So while we queue up some people here for the live broadcast and get some questions into the queue, I do have a question I didn't get a chance to get to yesterday, and it's from Cynthia, and it's recently promoted to a store that's totally off process and with language barriers. How do I motivate my team? I'm feeling kind of lost right now. And when you dive into a situation that's kind of chaotic, one of the big mistakes that leaders make is they try to tackle everything at once. And I love that gung-ho attitude. That's absolutely fantastic that you want to tackle everything at once. But what often happens is when you tackle too many things, you end up playing that game of whack-a-mole, where you knock something down, you get something right, but then something else pops up. And you spend your attention then focused on that next thing, and then something else pops up. So the first thing that I want you to focus on, Cynthia, is tackling your priorities and the priorities for those processes. So take a look at those processes and put them in order on highest priority and lowest priority. Then I want you to reorder them again as far as what is going to be the easiest to put into place and to turn around. So you look at what's the biggest priority, what has the biggest impact on the operation, and which is the easiest one to actually turn around. Because what I want you to do is I want you to start with a win. I want you to start off with an easy one, but one that preferably has some sort of impact to it. Okay? So start small, start with one thing. Get a success, get a win under your belt, and then tackle the next thing. So that's how you're going to go through it. So start small, build from there, and build some momentum. Now, in regards to the motivation aspect and to address the process aspect, when things are absolutely crazy and you get dropped into that environment, this is where you utilize those 5 questions. I know it's something that I recommend for everybody when you get a new position, is to take every single team member into the office and ask them 5 questions. What do you see going right in the organization? What do you see going wrong in the organization? Where are there opportunities we need to take advantage of? Where are there problems we need to fix? And how can I help you do a better job? When you match up the answers to those with that priority and process assessment that we just talked about, you are going to get a whole bunch of low-hanging fruit that you can take care of, and you will start turning things around. Motivation, so much of it is being able to book wins. People love to be motivated by winning. That's why there's bandwagons on professional sports teams. And they also like to have some sense of ownership and some sense of value. And when you listen to your team and you take action on what it is that they're saying, they know that you value their opinion, otherwise you wouldn't have acted on it. And now they have a stake in the operation as well. So coming into a new environment that is crazy, that is off process, as you say, Cynthia, is a difficult task and a difficult thing for anybody to jump into, but it is something that you can turn around for the better with just a few of those principles that we talked about. That's great. So anybody else? John, I see you jumped on here. It's so good to see you here again. And if you have any questions, drop them down into the comment section and I will just kind of take them in order. I did get some other questions offline, those that wanted to stay kind of anonymous. It's a great way to do it, direct message or email to me. And it's how to avoid comparing present company to my previous employers. So you get a new job. Everybody's getting new jobs. Fantastic. Good for everybody out there. But you get into a new company, and what happens is you naturally draw comparison. Now, comparison to a certain extent is the foil to happiness. It's hard to keep comparing because there's always something that's better. So when you go into a new company, though, I think that can be instructive. You look at those things that are bad, and that's what everybody focuses on. you start a new job and you compare your current employer to all of your past employers and all of the ways that your current employer isn't meeting your needs and isn't doing things right. That's fine. That can be instructive as to what you might be able to bring to the organization in turning some of those things around. But if you want to stop comparing, what I actually encourage you to do in this situation is to focus on comparing positives. What I want you to do is I want you to look for ways that your current employer is better than your previous employers. Too many times we make those comparisons, but we're only focused on one side of the equation. We're only focused on the things that are negative and the things where my current position isn't as good as my prior position. If you want to break that cycle, I want you to go ahead, get out a pad of paper and just write down the ways that your current employer is better than your previous employers. What are they doing right? What in parts of the work environment are better than you've had before? What equipment and systems? How are your coworkers better than they were before? That balances that equation out, and it gets you focused on strengths, not just on weaknesses and not just on the negative. And I think that will break you out of that cycle just a little bit. This is also a good exercise. Everybody out there, I know I always had issues with my bosses. Too many times we're under the thumb of a poor leader, all right? Just a reality. If there were better leaders out there, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. But when you get focused on the bad part of your leader's mentality and behavior, you often lose sight of the positive things. This goes for peers. This goes for employees. We're human, and it's easy for us to get in those negative feedback loops where all we are paying attention to are the negatives. And I would encourage you, whether it is looking at previous employers, whether it is looking at your boss, a peer, an employee, make sure that when you're thinking bad thoughts about them, when you're thinking negatively about their performance and what they're doing and their attitude, I want you to also try to balance that with the positive. Every leader out there has strengths and they have weaknesses. Don't get me wrong. Plenty of leaders have way more weaknesses than they have strengths. And hopefully a lot of them have a whole lot more strengths. But to only look at one piece of that puzzle is something that sends you down that negative spiral, and it affects your attitude, the attitude of those around you, and how you deal with those particular people. And that can then become a self-fulfilling prophecy for the way that you treat employees, the way you treat your boss, and how it affects your career. So just food for thought on that one. I'm still waiting for any questions that you got live online. Go ahead and drop those down into the comments section. Otherwise, I've got another good one that I received, and that is, what is the best way to accept work that is at a lower level than a manager? And it goes on a little bit in regards to professionally had to take a step back. Oftentimes in a career, very few careers go up linearly. Very few graphs that are charting anything in the real world are a straight line up. You will have to take those steps backwards. I've had to do it in my own career. And it isn't fun, but what you do is you get in touch with some of the core principles. And that's what I encourage everybody to do. When you get tasked with something that is, for lack of a better term, beneath you, get in touch with your core principles. That is a challenge to you of what your work ethic is made of. Are you going to bring the same passion to that job as you're going to bring to high-profile projects? I've moved from management to line level before in my career. I've moved from a director to a manager role in my career in different organizations. You will have those little setbacks that occur, but the quickest way out of those setbacks is to perform at an exceptional level. Enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy what you can try to learn from it. Sometimes taking that step back is almost like a recess because you're not dealing with the hyper tough issues that you might be dealing with in a director or in a higher value role. So use it as rest. Recharge the batteries and get ready for that next step in your career. But you should be bringing better experience to the position, and you should be able to perform a little bit better and chart the path forward from there. Just because you're in a position now doesn't mean that a year from now it doesn't move up the ladder significantly more quickly. So if you have any questions, I will answer them in real time right here. Just go ahead, drop down into the comment section, and I will tackle them from there. One of the things that I wanted to discuss, because it came up a lot yesterday, was in regards to ideas and getting your ideas across. It is not so much whether you are trying to convince your team that a particular change is worthwhile, whether you're trying to convince your boss about an idea that you have for improving the operation, or just about anything else where you are convincing somebody and trying to get your ideas across. That is where the WIFM comes into play. What's in it for me? You want to look at the other person's position and find out how what your idea is, what the change is, benefits them. What benefit did they receive from the change or from the idea? So when we talk about getting your ideas through to your boss, you'll hear me talk a lot about asking yourself, what are their priorities? Are you clear on what matters to them? Because they may hit you up for certain things that they want done, but really they're focused on sales. What is their boss beating them up about? What is their boss asking them questions about? Because when you align your ideas in a way that they get a benefit out for something that's important to them, then you're going to see more of your ideas get across the finish line and get into play and have them listen just a little bit more. When we talk about change for employees, we talk all the time about how it's important for the organization to continue to evolve and to continue to change and develop, and that's where the growth is going to come in. We talk about that a lot, but get micro with it. What is the benefit to the employee that is dealing with a changed system? What is that benefit? And be honest. Too many times we gloss over. Almost all of us know about a time where an organization went through a change and they told us that this happens with systems all the time. The system is going to be quicker. The system's going to be better. You're going to like working with the system much more. And it isn't. It's more complicated because the benefit was to the organization. Right? The organization is going to get better access to information. It's going to run better analytics. It's going to integrate to the web a little bit more, which is going to enable more customer service possibilities, all of those things. So the benefit to the employee isn't, in this case, and I'll go back, you try to find that benefit for the employee, but sometimes it isn't necessarily there or in a real way. And it is a situation where the benefit is in job security. If the organization is doing well, if the organization is competitive, then you will continue to be employed in that particular case. And that's where you get into that reality as well. So you're finding a benefit. What's in it for me? For everybody who you're trying to get your ideas through to. You're trying to get that benefit across. But also, you be creative and be honest as well. What is the benefit? So if there isn't a benefit, if your department's going to get downsized, what is the benefit of the organization? Those that remain, what is that benefit? We talk about this a lot when we're talking downsizing operations, is being real with everybody. Let them know, this is it, this is how many people we cut. We're done with that for now, and we're in a much better financial position. So those of you that are left should feel more secure. And it's not necessarily fun information to be giving people, but it is something that is applicable, and it helps you to drive that understanding of the situation, which helps all of you move on and continue to perform. It isn't always good news that we give as leaders. All right, I'm going to give about 10 more seconds here for any questions. Anybody who's jumped on, if you have any leadership struggles, issues at all that you're dealing with today, this is a great place to ask. We can kind of talk it through. And of course, I always like that feedback from everybody. You can drop your comments in the comment section about whatever it is that we happen to be talking about. But for those of you that are tuning in, again, offline, if you are listening to the podcast, listening to it on YouTube, go ahead, shoot me an email, cm@CameronMorrissey.com. Drop down in the comment section. I'll see the comments come through, and I'll be sure to get your question on another episode of Mentor Minutes. So take a look for that podcast link. You'll see it here pop up in a few minutes once I'm done with this particular video. But I hope everybody has a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow for the next episode of Mentor Minutes. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.